Where you are
mahali uko
is not your destination.
si hatima yako.
So when you pray to God,
Sasa ukimwomba Mungu,
God shows you your destination.
Mungu anakuonyesha hatima yako.
But he hides the process from you.
Lakini anaficha hii kuendelea.
So
hapa.
it takes you as a person
Inakuchukua wewe kama mtu
to strategize on the plan you put on the way
kufanya mipangilio hapa
to reach your
ili
destination.
uweze kufikia hatima
So
yako.
that plan for you will be easy for in
Sasa
Jesus' mighty
mipangilio
name.
yako itakuwa rahisi
May
katika
God
jina la
give you
Yesu.
grace.
Mungu akupe neema.
So what was in the Old Testament was an assumption of what was to come. That is why the Old Testament is a shadow to point you towards what is going to come in the New Testament. But the New Testament is more in the Old Testament than it is in the New Testament. Sijazungumza hapo Mama Mary kwa sababu hujaelewa kitu nimesema. Kile walikuwa wanangoja kutoka Agano la Kale ilikuwa ni hiyo sasa. They were waiting for the promise of the New Testament. But the New Testament that you see is not the New Testament. Because when you look into scriptures, there is more New Testament in the Old Testament compared to the New Testament itself. And the New Testament is not New Testament because it contains what is in the New Testament. How do we know this? The New Testament is brought out of the Old Testament because all the references are brought out of the Old Testament. That is why you can see the stories that were there in the Old Testament, we are not interested in them in the New Testament. Why? Because the writers who wrote the Old Testament, they were using their own stories to bring out the story of God.